everyone, happy Friday and happy Mardi Gras from here in Louisiana. As you can see, I have a desk full of goodness to share with you today. What we're going to be focusing on are the blending brushes. In the annual catalog, this catalog here, we have these standard size brushes and they are sold 3 to a pack. And then recently released here in our mini catalog, we have mini brushes. And I'm going to showcase both of them for you. But if you go to page 67 in this mini catalog, you are going to see the mini blending brushes as well as a storage item for you. I don't use this storage item. I'll show you what I use while I'm talking you through tips and things like that. So if you've ever used blending brushes, go ahead and say I've tried them below, and if you haven't, just say I never have. But let's just jump right in because like I said, I have all kinds of goodness for you. So let's first talk a little bit about storage of your blending brushes. I personally just use a little tin for my larger ones, and then I have this little kind of old glass vase I got at a flea market that I'm using for the mini ones. Of course, I've seen people that have wood boxes that have slots cut in them. You see the one for Stampin' Up! If you follow me for any length of time, one of the things that you're going to learn is I love to repurpose and I love to keep things simple, and I like to save my money for things like stamps, bundles, other types of fun tools and things like that, if that makes sense. So I like to kind of keep things super simple. In addition, for me, the difference between the Stampin' Up! Storage system and this system here was the Stampin' Up! Storage system holds 9 brushes, whereas you can already see that I have a whole lot here and the footprint is just about the same. So I'm also kind of about space as well and staying organized that way. So then another question we get is, do I need one blending brush for every single color? Absolutely not. Can you? Absolutely. I'm not going to stop you from owning 20, 30, 40, 50, even 100 brushes. But do you need to? No. Here's what I've done for my system is I have several of them and I have them labeled blues, pinks. Here I have reds, pinks, yellows, greens. So I just have them labeled kind of in a general. I do have one for pastels. I have one that I use for just water, and you'll see some techniques next week. And I have one that's browns and grays. I have one that's for black. So you kind of get the idea. Now, they're going to look stained as you start to use them. So let's talk next about cleaning them. So when I'm working with blues, I can simply just on a scrap piece of paper, just really rub this good, pressing down on it a little bit to get rid of the last color that I was working with. You can see that, okay? And then I can move on to another shade of blue, especially if I'm going from light to dark. It's a little harder going from dark to light. The other thing that I can do is I can take this and I can run it under water until it runs clean. And then I just kind of give it a swish on a towel and then I let it dry, okay? So plain water till it runs clear. Again, it will look stained, which is another reason why I like having mine just labeled blues. And nothing fancy again, guys. I'm not the fancy demonstrator, okay? So I just have it written with a Sharpie right here on the handle. So that's one way. Another way that you could clean them is just grab some water and you can swish around inside. Now this one's kind of fun, and this was an idea that I just recently came across and I'm absolutely loving. So we're just gonna do that, and then on a piece of paper, look at that, I can get some more ink out and I can have another background as I'm cleaning my stamp or my brushes. So just another fun idea for you. As you're working with this, let's put this one aside and we're not gonna use this one anymore, so you can just see I've got that one all wet, so we're going to set that aside. As you're working with your blending brushes, we're going to be using a clear block for a minute, and another way to kind of clean your block as you go, so you're going to see that. So I want to jump right into the different techniques that we have to work with, and I've just got them all right here beside me, so just hang tight here for just a second. And we're going to bring them all in, and I'm going to show you a sample first. And then we're gonna grab a piece of cardstock. And a lot of times you'll see a stamped card and it'll have a really pretty soft image behind it. That is absolutely a great way to be using the Stampin' Blend or Stampin' Brushes. Oh my goodness, all these SBs, right? Stampin' Blend, Stampin' Brushes. So we're gonna start first by just showing you how to put that soft background behind stamped images. So with your brush, you can either go in a circle or you can tap it, but let me back up for a second. Your blending brushes are gonna work much better for you when you have a well-inked pad. Celebration is in full swing and it's a great time to add those re-inkers if you don't have a re-inker for all of your Stampin' Up! Pads. But the better inked your pad is, the better ink card coverage that you're going to get. So you're gonna swirl like this. And then on a clear brush, you can go ahead and just kind of rub off just a little extra. And then we're just gonna start in a swirly motion and you start light. And then you can just kind of start to press down on it a little bit to darken that image up. And you can see where you're just gonna get that soft image. Here, I used Mossy Meadow on Seafoam, and then I embossed over it. Just that soft image that you want behind. Other times you're going to have, for example, with this card here, I used Calypso Coral, not Calypso Coral. Oh my gosh, Janet, so sorry. I used Blushing Bride along with Petal Pink, but I have Blushing Bride on here right behind my sweet little owl, okay? So you've got just that, and then you're gonna be able to add something behind it. So if I had a stamped image, I could put that over top, and then I would have a little bit of color right behind it. But it doesn't, as you saw here, have to always be on cardstock, okay, solid or white. You can also do the same thing on designer paper. So let me grab, there it is, right in front of me. If you could see the stash of things I have beside me in little piles so that I can show you some fun things, you'd be smiling. So let's put that aside. And we're just gonna rub this around. We're just gonna start to add. And it's easier to start light and then add more ink. Well, let's get a little off because I don't want a big blob. And I have the ginkgo flowers already embossed in white. And if I put those on there, now you can see that pretty little bit, and this is designer paper, okay? So you're able to put that image right behind. So just that little extra bit of color, instead of having the sharpness of a die cut circle, a die cut square, some other little die cut label or something like that, you can go ahead and just add a little bit of soft color right behind, whether it's on designer paper, solid color cardstock, or on our basic neutrals, vanilla white work well, or shimmer white, even vellum and things like that. So along those same lines, let's show you something else. Keep it going. Let's close this up and let's bring in a different type of ink. This is our craft white ink, and got a brand new one ready to go. Let's just use this. There it is, it's white. So make sure your pad is well inked, and the craft white is a little sticky. So what I found is I really have to kind of put my hands down and secure it good. And this one I found I don't have to tap off or anything like that. Okay, it's just a little bit of a different kind of ink. And I'm gonna be able to add just a nice soft white background, just a little bit of white. And now I can take my embossed image and I'll just have that shadow of white. What's also fun is on your darker cardstocks, if you want to do something kind of like a spooky Halloween scene or something, this is a great way to add a little bit of that color to your basic black cardstock as well. So you're going to be able to use even your craft white and get that image behind it. So one of the most basic ways, again, that people are using the blending brushes is just to soften a little piece of background behind a stamped image. And some of these ones that I'm doing partially, if you pop back this evening, they'll be finished and posted here on the Facebook later this evening. This will get washed the exact same way that I told you, either by rinsing it clean, swirling it in a cup water, whatever you can do to get water on it and rinse it really clean. If you don't wash it, especially with your craft white or if you're working with Versamark, it'll stiffen and it'll get hard. So you definitely want to make sure that you're rinsing that. And I've got a bit of time. It's not going to go hard while I'm sitting here doing this video. But again, well-inked pads make a difference for you. So let's move some of this over and let's keep on going with some fun ideas for you. Another way that you will see people working with the brushes is with stencils, or in the Stampin' Up! Catalog, we call these masks. So you can use prepared stencils, okay? Or you can also create stencils with different dies. And I simply, after I've created my stencil, I store them in a clear mount stamp case and it just says dies and then it says stencils. So I use die cuts. For example, we have a die that creates a cloud edge. We're going to use that one in a second. A lot of times you'll see a soft circle. So I just die cut a couple of different size circles from the layering circles dies, and I have those to work with. If I don't actually want to use the openings on this, but I want those soft circles again. So I just keep mine, okay, instead of reinventing them. And whenever possible, I try to use the thick cardstock to create my paper samples. They last a little bit longer. And the reason why I say is when possible, sometimes your really, really detailed dies are a little harder to cut out of thick cardstock. But for some of your basic edges, we're just gonna go ahead and use the thick cardstock, and that seems to work good. So, and your dies your masks from Stampin' Up! Will also fit in a clear mount stamp case. I keep those separate in a clear case that says mask. Stampin' Up! Does sell these cases to a pack. They are like, I can't live without them. I'm not gonna lie, I just can't live without them. So where's my one that's grays? Did I bring a gray pad? Yes. So let's just pretend like it's a gray cloudy day since I managed to get the blue one wet. We're gonna just roll it around. Again, you can tap it off on paper, but you can also use a clear block, and there's a fun little extra bonus for this one at the end, okay? And now you're just gonna start to swirl over. And now I can pick it up and I can go a little darker, just real close to the edge of that. And you can see where you've got that cloud. So, and again, let's flip this over while I've got the gray out. It doesn't really matter. We'll pick some of that up. We'll get rid of it. And we'll just go over this. And I'm going to show you here in a second why we take a little bit off. Because a lot of times when you first put it down, it picks up a dark piece of ink. And that doesn't always swirl out so nice. But look at that little stencil. Again, if you're wondering sometimes, on layered cards, that little extra softness, that little extra pattern that's there, they're doing it with blending brushes, they're doing it with masks, they're doing it with dies that they created, with stencils that they created with dies. But let me just use this scrap here. So if I put this on and I just start, so you can see I can get that little dark piece. Even if I start soft, a lot of times I can get that. So it's just easy to either tap a little off or use your clear block to get rid of some of it. And again, you can always come back and add more color. So you can definitely work with stencils. Here's one that's finished, and if you look up in the card, you can see the clouds behind it. So I did the clouds on the top half of this one, and that's where those nice soft clouds come in, is with the stencil that I just showed you, that decorative edge. And then this is one of the newer stencils that Stampin' Up! Has in the mini catalog. And it's a two-step one, so we use two different colors. But you can see that softness. It doesn't have the lines that a stamp would have around the edges and things like that. So stenciling, again, gives you that nice, soft background. So that's definitely an option there for you, is to play with stencils, whether you create your own or you go ahead and use the mask that Stampin' Up! Has. So another thing that you can do is what you saw me post about the other day, and that's alter our designer papers, okay? Designer paper is paper that has a print, and all designer paper can be altered. All you're gonna do is just take your brushes and different colors and you're gonna just start to color away. You saw the kitty that I posted, and in this case, two of the followers, Lisa and Amy, both channeled Lisa Frank's colors. Here I had to do some Mardi Gras colors. We'll be having some fun. Here I just did browns. You can see that I'll be doing another kitty card. I'm loving those little kitties. This reminded me of a mermaid tail. So you can definitely start and work on these. When you're working with anything that has metal, what you want to do is similar to what we'll do during the resist time. Let's do a sassy pink animal print. How about that, right? Pinks and reds. And in this case, I'm gonna start off the paper and just start to work my way on it. And I'm gonna do pretty much the whole thing. Let's bring this back in here. We gotta stick around to the end to find out about that little extra bonus with the clear block. And you can go as dark and light as you want. I can go ahead and come back in and darken up some of the spots. But you're going to be able to alter that and have a whole lot of fun with that. I can keep part of it light if I wanted to, so it has kind of that torn edge look to it by doing something like that. You could variegate it. I mean, there's lots of possibilities. But once you're done with the color and you're happy with the way it is, you're going to just take a tissue, and the metal part resists, the metallic part of the paper resists the ink. So I'm just going to brush off from the metallic part, and then I'm ready to use this piece of paper. So we're going to have some fun with the pink cat. But while I have the pink out, you can also just start to, if you want to kind of darken the edges of your paper, you can just kind of work the edges. So maybe you want it to look aged. So you're going to take a little bit of your crumb cake or Sahara sand or soft suede and age the edges of your paper. You can also just work in, and you can cover prints. So we're going to cover prints, and you can just cover designer paper that has a print to it, all one color, just to change it all up so that you have a pretty crumb cake with melon mambo print. Or you can go ahead and mix a whole bunch of colors in that you're going to see me do here now in just a second, which is going to highlight some of the benefits of the smaller brushes. Like, why would I want two sizes? Well, this one's going to be a lot harder to get, for example, right in the center of that flower. Whereas if I have this little brush, let's go in. And now I can be much more precise with the smaller brush. So I can add just a little bit where I want it to be. And just like that. And now that I've got the yellow in, I want to keep going, and I want it to have, let's do this color just because it's here and it's something different to work with. Can you see the sparkles on that pad? When you start to glitter, man, it ends up everywhere, and now I can go around that. So the littler ones are going to allow you to do multicolor blending that much easier than we were able to do before. You don't even have to do any masking, but look how pretty that is. Okay, altering that paper without having to use your blends, without having to use your watercolor pencils or anything like that. It's just a very, very soft look, and it just brushes on really, really nice. So altering your designer paper is definitely a fun option for you as well when you're working with your cards. And here's an example of the zebra print. We did purples, and today's planned party, and in reality in New Orleans right now during Mardi Gras, today's plan should say parade, so I think I need to redo this card. But we've got our sweet little kitty just kind of hanging out ready to party. So again, that altering with the colors on the designer paper is a great thing to be doing. So let's keep going. Let's look at another technique. And in this case, what we want to talk about is we want to talk about just creating a real simple, what's called ombre background. And actually, I want to back up for 1 second, guys. This piece of paper is laying here. This is our printed vellum. Can you see that? Okay. And sometimes you want the words or the images on those printed vellum to pop just a little bit more. You still want to use it maybe against a white background. But if I work my ink across it, and I can do all kinds of colors. I just grabbed the gray because that brush was right here and real handy. But I can change that color up. It's hard to, let me see if I can lay it against something to show you here for a second. So I can make the writing on that pop up a little bit more. So you can definitely also use it on your vellum. So basically any paper it can be used on, okay? The only thing that you wouldn't use it on is a solid foil piece because it's not gonna have anything to stick to, okay? It's just gonna come right off. So let's do a little bit of blending or ombre type effect, multicolors across the whole background. So we're gonna grab our yellows, we're gonna grab our greens, and I have one that is light blues. I should have had them laid all out so they're not making tons of noise for you, but we've got them all. Okay, so let's open them up. And in this case, I'm gonna start from the bottom up. You can start from the top down. Just depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And doesn't matter where I put it at this point. I was just showing you that other technique. So I'm just gonna kind of start with a little bit of the green on the bottom. And I'm gonna work my way up. You can do this with shades of one color. So I could do Melon Mambo real heavy, then Melon Mambo kind of medium, and then Melon Mambo light. In this case, I've chosen 3 colors to work with. And it may not look like it, but I am starting off to the side. And then the more that you press down, the darker it's going to get. If you start real light, you've got the ink at the bristles. As you start to press down, you're going to get those deeper colors. And then let's get our Coastal Cabana. It's just easier to do this than cross over myself. So you're just going to have those 3 different colors. And then you can go ahead and take your image and ink it up. Let's do that real quick just so you can see the finished, semi-finished project. Like I said, I'll have them all posted this evening for you. And then I'll go ahead and die cut it. But may the road rise up. So you've got your, and I did it because it said covered in sunshine and it's the road, and we just kind of moved our way up. So you can add multiple colors behind a stamped image as well. So let's keep on going. We have another fun technique for you. And then of course I'll have even more for you next week. There are so many things that you can do with these blending brushes, guys. They're absolutely amazing. And so I have in front of me 2 pieces of paper that have been embossed. This one with white embossing and this one with gold embossing. Either one works. I just chose to go this route because that's what I wanted to do. And they're both on designer paper, again showing you that you can alter those designer papers in a lot of fun ways. So let's pick this Melon Mambo back up again. And I'm just going to start to work over top of this greeting. And I will tell you the darker colors make your images pop more when you're doing this resist technique than the pastels do. You're going to get a little bit more wow and bang for your buck with your brights and your neutrals and things like that. And then you're just going to take your tissues, you're going to clean it off real good, and you're going to have color behind your greeting. So much love for you. And then you'll be able to do that just to show you another one. This was done with white embossing and navy. kind of keeping it more masculine instead of making it a really foofy kind of glittery Valentine. We have So Much Love for You this way. And then looking here at this So Much Love for You, let's pick a different color just because we have it. Who else loves Coastal Cabana? Oh my gosh, it's one of my go-to colors. I love it. Coastal Cabana and Bermuda Bay. I love those colors. And it's just a fun way to make things pop right off of your designer paper, and just kind of negates a whole lot of layering and things like that. So you can just do something, oops, like this, and then you're going to have that greeting just kind of pop off the paper. And you need to play a little bit with colors. Obviously this one doesn't pop as much, but we're going to work it just a little bit more and make it a little darker pink so that there's more contrast. But you can see the difference here in the three of them. So embossing in different colors on the cardstock, I could have chosen black. On this one, instead of white, we've got gold, silver, we've got copper. Again, because it's embossed, it's shiny now like our shiny papers, our foiled papers, and the ink isn't gonna stick to that. Now it may stain a little bit as you see on here, depending on the color that you're working with, but you're still gonna get that wow and that pop. And speaking of that, that is how we did this one right here. So it was embossed in white in the corner. And then we went ahead and just sponged over top. We could have done it the other way. You could have sponged first and then embossed over top. It can be done either way. There's no right or wrong way. We could have done it like the very first cards with a little bit of color behind and then embossing over top, or emboss first and then add your color. Sometimes it just depends. Like in this case, I knew I was die cutting the little bird out, so a little owl out, so I knew I could cut it out and then kind of lay it on the paper to decide how big I wanted my background. But sometimes you're not sure how big that finished background is going to be, and so you may want to emboss first and then start to add that little bit of shading. So it can go either way for you. And speaking of that, let's pull this one in here for a second. Now this is going to give us a chance to highlight. I'm going to keep this out. I have Bermuda Bay and I have Old Olive. Definitely a beautiful color combination. Give us a chance to highlight our sweet little blending brushes. And I have blues for this one. Okay, so can you see what it is? It's the thistle. And I think thistles are beautiful. I know some people consider them weeds, but I think they're beautiful personally. So you know what? I'm going to start at the bottom. And let's start first with our Old Olive. And we're just gonna go over this. And I'm not trying to be neat or fancy with this one because I am purposely going to die cut it. So that is one of the benefits sometimes of having one that has a matching die, is that you get to color outside the lines and really just not stress over it, if that makes sense. So we're just gonna come in here, and I can go over it a few more times, but look at that just pop. And let's just take that off of there. And let's take our blues. And I can come in here with my smaller brush. And let's do our, I can still, well, what the heck, I already have this in my hand. We'll just use this for light blues. We'll just label it. So I'm gonna have all of these beautiful colors. And then when I die cut it, I'm gonna end up with a variation of this card here. That's how I created the thistle for this card here. But in this case, I used our Gorgeous Grape and our Highland Heather, and I used Pear Pizzazz on this card. So that concept, but you can see where it was die cut and raised up. And that's exactly how that was done. So having those die cut images is going to give you a chance to be a little messier, but really getting that really cool, sharp image. So again, we'll be cutting that out and we'll be finishing that project. And then as promised, I told you I'd tell you a little bit about this clear block and what's kind of fun about this clear block that I've been working with. Let's grab another piece of paper and bring it in here. So now I have this clear block. We're gonna take and just spritz it. I don't have my spritzer handy, but we're just gonna sprinkle it with a little bit of water and you'll have it. You can stamp it down on your paper now, and you have that extra bonus of a fun background by cleaning your brushes on here. The other thing, by cleaning your brushes on here, you could actually go back in and pick up some ink from here instead of constantly going to your pad. When I put it on paper, it's soaked into the paper. I can't pick any color up. If you're cleaning your brush off on here as you're working, you can always come back here. Think of it as a palette and using it as a palette. So lots and lots of possibilities, guys. So as a quick review for you, let's clean off our table. It looks a little crazy. How many of your craft desks end up looking like this after a crafting session, right? So you can create a pop of color behind your images like this. We can go ahead and we can emboss, resist, and color behind, or this could have been done the exact same way. We can alter our designer papers. In this case, the zebra print, the silver zebra print was altered with gorgeous grape, and we used Mardi Gras colors for that. We can use stencils on our projects. So here in this case, we used a mask, and in this case, we used a die to create a paper stencil of the cloud, since we have a cloud edge die. And then of course we can do emboss resist, where you're going to stamp and emboss in white and do the resist. In this case, it's an image that die cuts, and then this is just a larger image direct to the paper. So lots and lots of possibilities with these blending brushes, guys. Big shout out to all of you who earned the sampling of the blending brushes during our launch event, January 5th through the 9th. You're gonna love your happy mail next week as they start arriving. And make sure that you like and follow me and come back next week, because actually there is more. There is part 2, because there is that many fun things. These things are so versatile, and I am passionate about value added. Finding tools in my stamp room that I can use lots and lots of different ways. Tools that only can be used one way are kind of hard for me to invest in, because it's like, oh, I can only use them one time. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be used the same way over and over again. So I love when I can use things multiple different ways, making these little things earn their keep in my studio. So I will see you guys. Actually, I'll see you Sunday night for part 3 of our Celebration Sundays, and then next Friday at 2 p.m. for part 2 of these. And then check back tonight for the finished samples of the ones that I kind of did partially during the video. They'll be posted at 8 p.m. tonight. Thanks, guys.